Hello, good morning, good afternoon, hello. Hello everyone, I'm super excited for today's session. We'll just let everybody join, but I'm very excited. I'm here in London from our new fancy studio. And we've got a very exciting session. I'm trying to play it cool, but we've got an all-star-studded panel. Everyone will be joining. The chat is open, so please say hello. Let me know where you're joining from. And we've got a poll because I'd love to know, how is everybody today? Hi, Jose from Argentina, Atlanta, Georgia. Hi. Oh, I'm pleased to see that most people are feeling fabulous, or that they're happy that tomorrow is Friday. We've got Boston, we've got London, Toronto, Oregon, North Yorkshire. Oh, amazing. Hi, everyone. We'll be getting started very shortly. I just want to know how everyone is today with the poll that's live on the screen, and let me know in the chat where you're from. Fantastic. Hello from India, St. Louis, Nashville, Italy. More from Yorkshire, big Yorkshire contingent today. Fantastic. Well, I'm pleased to see that 65% of people are good and tomorrow is Friday. I think I'm there as well, to be honest. But we've only got an hour today and we've got so much good stuff to go through with all our fabulous panelists. So without further ado, I'm going to ask my co-host today to come on and introduce herself. Ta-da, the big reveal.
Hello, I'm Joanna Parsons. I'm CEO of The Curious Route. I'm the author of Innovative Internal Communication. I'm an internal communications nerd through and through, and I'm delighted to be here.
Love it. And proud. So proud, Joanna.
Definitely.
Amazing. And next we've got Ellie.
Hello. That was awkward, wasn't it? Hello, everyone.
Dramatic pause.
I am Ellie. I look after internal comms at Domino's, and I honestly believe I have the best job in the world. It's great fun. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Hi.
Hi. And next we've got Chris, and you'll be stretched to put where he's dialing in from. Chris, where are you?
Hello, everybody. So I'm dialing in from San Francisco, but I originally hail from Toronto. So shout out to all my peeps in Toronto and in Canada. So in my one of my day jobs, I'm head up the employee experience and internal communications consulting agency for Gallagher Communication. And one of my other day jobs is I'm president of the board of directors for IABC in Toronto. And then yet another one of my day jobs, I co-host a podcast called Why Does It Feel So Wrong to Be Human at Work with my good friend Pinaki Kathiari from Local Wisdom in New Jersey.
Love. No, I mean, Chris, you're just not busy at all, are you? You should really have.
Yeah. And that doesn't even include my real full-time job, which is a father and, and a husband.
Oh, amazing. And we've got Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jennifer Sproul. Please do call me Jen for the purpose of this. Otherwise, someone is telling me off.
Sorry, Jen.
And I am the Chief Executive of the Institute of Internal Communication here based in the UK. So my day job is to obviously lead what we do to help raise standards and professional practice and internal communication, hopefully be an advocate for what I think is a wonderful profession. And like Chris, I like to co-host a podcast myself called The Future of Internal Communication, which feels quite apt for the name of this session.
Love. Well, I'm super excited. I'm really trying to keep my excitement levels low because otherwise it's just going to be a bit obnoxious. But how exciting to get us started. Rather than diving straight in, if anybody knows me, I love a bit of forced fun, and webinars can be quite serious, and that is just not the vibe today. So I actually gave our panelists some homework, and the homework was, please, can you draw something that represents what internal comms will be in 2025, or what you think it will be to you. And I haven't seen many of these, so I'm very excited to see how artistic our panelists are, and the big reveals. So Joanna, please, could we start with you?
All right, let's make this a challenge for the audience. I'm going to hold up my picture, and for me, This represents kind of two concepts I have in my head. I'm going to hold up the picture. You're going to have like 10 seconds, get your fingers on the keyboard, type in the chat. What do you think I'm getting at for the future of internal comms? Ready? Here we go.
Okay.
Yes, that is the picture. Okay, jump in the chat there. Tell me
we've
where
got
my brain is at.
Streamline, consistent, bottom line, linear, consistent,
Very good. Look at all this. Very
status
clever.
quo, flatline growth.
Okay, Kate, someone or other, I can't see your second name. Kate says simple. So for me, this represents two concepts in internal communication. One is simplicity. Sometimes I think we just overcomplicate things. I think with COVID, we added so much stuff. Maybe it's time to take some things away. So that line is simplicity, and it's also subtraction, because I think it's time to stop adding things and maybe start subtracting things. So there's my picture.
Joanna, what a powerful picture. I feel like we should frame
Just
it.
one line. Bang.
Yeah.
See, I'm lazy.
Love it. I love it. And Ellie, I hear that you actually delved into the official household craft drawer to create your drawing today.
I did, and I think I've gone OTT, but my picture, I mean, I'm nothing if not on brand is. Can you see it?
Oh no.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Back. Oh, there we go.
What could that be
What
from
could
the speaker
it
from
be?
Domino's?
Well, I'll take it back. Yeah. So actually, there are a few layers. So on a surface level, it's hot and fresh, which is our
Ooh.
approach to comms at the moment internally at Domino's. You know, it's
Yeah.
hot, it's fresh, it's delivered with impact seamlessly. That's what we're kind of all about. But on a more deeper level, there are 5 slices to my piece of pizza, each representing a focus for us. But I mean, I don't need to go into them, but it's about data, it's about
Amazing.
everybody, it's about embracing innovation, it's about events that have great impact, and all of these pieces make up our pizza for the year.
That's really cool. I feel like we could do a whole session just on your pizza.
Yeah, should we do that? Let's book that in.
Great, I'm here for it. And Chris, I'm coming to you next.
Great. So I'm going to show mine, and because I have a virtual background, just because I'm in my hotel room, and
Oh,
so
this
I
is
have a
always interesting to navigate.
I
Yeah.
have a pretend view of the Golden Gate Bridge, but the view outside my hotel window is not nearly as inspiring. And I just did a really sloppy attempt at making my bed just in case. But I'm going to hold it to my chest. I don't know if everyone can see it.
Okay, what do we think?
So maybe, do you want to, can you see what that
yes.
is?
Well, firstly, I thought it was a mountain, but I see fish. I can see a
Yeah.
sailboat, maybe a little ice cap there, and I can see some sun.
Yeah, and basically the idea is this, which is if you think about what internal communications actually represents, it's a lot of our constituents, our stakeholders, they see the tip of the iceberg and they see a lot of the things that we actually produce, but they don't realize what the massive amounts of energy and thinking and thought that goes into what they see at that tip of the iceberg. And so the boat kind of represents the boat represents
boat.
a lot of times what people see, but then that little fish that you can see over there, I try to put a little bit of a gobsmacked expression on the fish. That's I think in 2025 leadership is the fish, and we're gonna be able to socialize with them and say, wow, there's actually a lot that goes into the work that you do, and maybe I shouldn't be recommending that we do a fully comprehensive communication on this buck slip, because that's what I grew up with.
I love it. I'm interested to see how leadership will feel being called a fish. So watch this space. But I love it. And I think there's been a lot of comments in the chat as well, really sympathizing with your drawing, Chris. So thank you. And Jen, I know you had some slight visual difficulties and you'd already prepared your drawing, but did I just see you doing another drawing?
I was trying to do something really quickly.
Okay.
I did something where I was trying to represent something, but also show some challenges that we have with technology as well as how it can be used. But as it is with technology, my internet isn't working in my Zoom. So I've quickly drawn like this. I don't know if you can see it.
I can see 3 people and some speech bubbles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, it's noisy out there. We just need to have meaningful, understanding conversations and have the dialogue. And how can we enable dialogue? in our
That word meaningful as well, so powerful. And I feel like all of the drawings are extremely meaningful. So thank you all so much. But everybody who's joined in the chat with commenting, don't worry, the Forced Fun is not just for our panelists. We would actually love for everybody on the call today to get involved. So we're partnering with Joanna, and we are going to be offering a giveaway for 1 hour free consultation with Joanna. But we would like to see your drawings. Can they be better than our panelists? I mean, what's better than Domino's Pizza? Arguably not a lot. But please, could you draw an image that represents what internal comms is going to look like in 2025 for you? Now, I will clarify here, ChatGPT, AI generated images not allowed. I want the old school pen and paper. So take a photo of it, whack it on your LinkedIn for a chance to be in this giveaway to win an hour free consultation with Joanna. Make sure that you tag us so that we can keep an eye and use the hashtag internal communication. So you've got the details there. Maybe take a screenshot of this slide. But you'll have until end of day Monday. So maybe if your creative juices only fly, you know, at the weekend, you can do a little scribble for us at the weekend. But I cannot wait to see what this community come up with their drawings. We'll probably produce a bit of a collage as well. But thank you so much, Joanna, for offering your time to be able to do this giveaway, and I'm very excited. Someone, can I see, Ainsley has just said it's 5 a.m. here, so your drawing skills might be limited. That's okay, you've got till end of day Monday. I appreciate you joining at 5 a.m. But let's get into it. I'm very conscious of time. We've got so much to get into with this fabulous group of people. And thank you all so much for doing your homework. I really appreciate it. Although Joanna, arguably, you know, you probably just did that just now. But
it was the most efficient piece of work I've ever done in my life.
Quite right. But thank you so much. And I hope that really sets the tone for what we're going to get into over the next sort of 45 minutes. This needs to be human and fun because some of these sessions can be quite serious, and that's just not the vibe that we want to set today. So with that in mind, what is the vibe and what are we looking at in 2025? So I'd like to just cue a quick poll to see where we're all at as an audience, to understand what are your priorities for 2025, because I'm sure that they all differ across the globe and across, you know, the variety of roles. But just to set the tone across our speakers, obviously like expectations in comms has changed a lot, and the diversity of workforces, whether that's, you know, age or skills, background, location, more so than ever before. So I'd like to understand, and we'll start with Joanna really, what are the most significant shifts that you've been seeing, and how can you as, you know, internal comms gurus really start to address these?
For me, the whole remote working, hybrid working, forced back to the office thing is still high on the agenda. I mean, I was always a corporate girly. I was always in the office, and I was always told, oh, you couldn't do this job from home. And then sure, we all suddenly discovered that, yes, I can do this job from home. I can probably do it better than when I'm not being distracted by the office gossip every 5 minutes. So I just think that's still a big live discussion. It's a huge change in how we work. I know there is a big call now to go back to the way we were. I don't think you can put that genie back in that bottle. Like, as someone with a little kid, like my daughter is 7, I love walking her to school in the morning. It's like the best part of my day. I love it. I'm not going to give that up to commute into an office. So I think as communicators, like, it's not for us to set the policy on this, but I think we have a role in communicating really clearly what the policy is, what's expected, so that employees can make their own informed decision of, is that how they want to work, or would they rather look for something else? Which sounds bad for the company, but like, you don't want people there that don't want to be there, because they're going to be the narky ones. So be as honest as you can, communicate it clearly, and let people make up their mind.
Totally. And thanks for sharing your example as well, Joanna, that's the most important part of your day. And I love that is, you know, your ride or die.
Absolutely. But like, I want to ask Jen, because I imagine you have quite a kind of a bird's eye view of the industry. Like, what are the big changes for the workforce in your view?
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. I think that is a topic. I absolutely do agree with that. I think that what I'm hearing and tapping into when I talk for a multitude of internal communications across industries, across locations, is just the complexity of which we are sitting and trying to navigate. Now, that complexity is a multitude of things. It is, yes, employees' attitudes to work, what they want from work, what they need from that. Yes, it is also complexity in economic pressure and cost of living and personal life. It is complexity in terms of uncertainty in general. I think there's activism and division and polarization amongst employees that we're seeing more of. There's AI, which is on a knife edge, whichever way you look at it. Some are feeling quite pro. There's also an awful increasing amount of hesitation, which is the beginning of this year than last year. So I think there is a lot of people, and some of those impacts will be different depending on your organizational context. One organization might have hybrid as a big issue. One organization might be looking at AI. One might be looking at how we restructure and do transformational change, how we make cultural change happen to achieve whatever goal that organization is doing to it. But I certainly think from an internal communication point of view, at the core of it, what we need to do is work on this point of radical honesty and treating people like adults and enabling that to happen within our organizations, and how we as a function influence ourselves within the right stakeholder groups to provide the right guidance. And I think leadership will be under question increasingly this year as well.
I love that. And isn't it mad that in 2025 we have to say, maybe we should be honest with people and treat them like adults, like it's mental.
It's simple, but it's still not happening.
I know. Ellie, I'd love your take, because I imagine you work in Domino's, you have people that they can't work from home. They have to come to my home to bring me my pizza. They have to be out and about. What are the kind of shifting expectations in your world?
I think, so yes, all of the above, I completely agree wholeheartedly. I think in Domino's, we have got two big challenges. Number one, I think, is that our colleagues want this sort of consumer grade experience at work when it comes to comms. So, the platforms that they use in their personal lives, the content that they're seeing from, the best people that they follow, they want that quality of content and that kind of steady stream internally. Big challenge, number one. Number two is that, people want comms that feel like them. We've got to speak their language, and we've got an incredibly vibrant, brand. Domino's brand is brilliant, and there's so much that we love about it. And reflecting that internally, when you don't always have, really great fun messages. Sometimes it's just, it's informing people about things that are going on, and replicating that internally is number two, I would say. But yeah, consumer grade platforms definitely, and that employee experience versus the brand, and the kind of really ramping that up, and our tone of voice, hot and fresh, delivered with impact, all of those kind of things.
Okay, you're kind of making me hungry now. Is that wrong? 24 o'clock.
It's a common problem, actually.
And Chris, how about you? Any other big changes in the workforce that are going to impact or are impacting internal comms, and how we can respond?
Yeah, no, definitely, Joanna. And I completely agree with you about the ongoing relevance of the remote and hybrid experience, the impact and challenges it poses for inspiring a strong culture. And definitely, I think, Jen, the points that you're making about the increasing complexity and obviously the game-changing impact of AI, which we'll touch on a bit. And certainly, Ellie, I love what you're talking about in terms of developing consumer-grade experiences. In Gallagher's State of the Sector Internal Communication Survey, one of the things that we've been seeing is that with all these things changing, so has the remit and the understanding of what our role is as internal communications players within our organization. It's evolved tremendously over the past 15 years that we've been doing the survey. And it's gone from being viewed as, first of all, not even being viewed as a real role, to being something that was primarily tactical and execution focused and thinking about channels. And now we're starting to be really getting some great momentum and being recognized as a truly strategic thought partner that is recognizing opportunity to play a meaningful role in shaping culture and attitudes and forging a strong employer brand. And so, we always talk about, internal communications professionals crave getting that seat at the table. I think it's important for us to remember that we also have to position ourselves as a meaningful agent of change. And remembering to ask ourselves, do we as communicators, if we even get that seat at the table, do we understand what our value is? And are we moving away from questions like, when do you need this by? And what is the budget? And what are the key messages that you want to share? This is a tell for how communications is often viewed at organizations. And we just focus on what we want to say and not enough on really thinking through what are the outcomes that we're trying to drive at and achieve with each and every interaction, not just behaviors, but certainly how do we want people to feel?
Chris, I couldn't agree more. And I feel like one of the key words you just said there was partnering. And I feel that's come across in a lot of your answers around the relationships and connections and real partnering with the rest of the business. And your fish, right? You want your fish to swim down and see the rest of the iceberg. I completely agree. And I feel, Ellie, especially to your point around this technology piece and consumer grade, and what does that actually mean for people that are not necessarily always based at a desk? I think a theme I'd love to really dive into for everyone, because I know that you've all got an opinion on this, is it's really hard. Jen, you spoke about meaningful connections and this radical honesty, but how do you connect with people that don't necessarily sit at a desk all day or aren't in the office? How do you make people feel part of something and the culture and feel like they belong? I know that is a huge topic.
It is huge. But I guess where I always start from with a question like that is, where are they? What do they need? What is the rhythm of their day? What is the flow of their day? How do they work? When do they connect? What touch points are they? What information are they missing? How are we listening? What is the visibility of that? So I think for me, you start from the point of understanding. I know it might sound a bit 101, but you start from the point of understanding your audience, where they're at, what their sentiment is, where they're feeling on. Do they feel included? Do they feel like they know what's going on in the organization? If they do, where are they receiving it? If they don't, how would they like to receive it? How is their manager meetings happening? How is their listening programs? How is it happening in the apps? Tools or technologies? It has to be think about using design thinking, systems thinking approach to find a way to reach them, rather than thinking about this is how we want to reach them.
Totally. And I feel like you previously described this as a listening tour. You're like, that's where I've got to start if you're going to tackle this, is go and listen. And like you said, it is back to basics, but it's absolutely vital.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Actually, at Domino's, I think we have people that are out on the road, we have people in warehouses, but we have people that work shifts. And I think, if comms to them feel like extra work, then they're not going to engage with us. So we have to meet them where they're at. The daily flow that you talked about there, Jennifer, is absolutely spot on. But also, that internal comms big play in sort of culture, and it's not just about sort of sending messages and updates and letting people know what's happening, but it's about helping them to feel like they're part of something bigger. So creating those moments where our frontline teams can connect, celebrate, and be recognised as well. We're doing loads of that at Domino's at the minute, but it is a challenge. But one for us this year.
I had this moment recently. We have this incredible place you could visit here in Dublin. It's the Butler's Chocolate Factory. If you've never had Butler's chocolates, they're not paying me to say this, but it is the best chocolate in the world. But I did like the tour of the factory with my daughter, and you can go up high above the factory floor and you're looking down, and then you go into the area where all the people, they're there all day long, and they've got these boxes, and they take the chocolates and they put them in the box and they close them and they put them in, and all day long. And I just sat there and I just watched them do that. And I thought, if I was them, would I really want to get loads of corporate updates from head office? No, it's nothing to do with me. If I was them, would I want to sit through an hour-long town hall that's nothing to do with me putting the chocolates in the box? No, probably not. But would I be interested in maybe some stories of like the people who are eating the chocolates, or the people who are celebrating with the chocolates, or feeling part of, I'm not just putting the chocolates in the box, but I'm also linked to the other people and it all, that kind of thing. So like sometimes it's just putting yourself in their shoes and having some common sense and going, they don't need the corporate waffle. Nobody wants that. What do they want to hear about? What do they need to do their job? And like, that's it.
Yeah. What do they care about?
Yeah. And I think also not just repurposing. This is, I think, something that is it's an easy thing to do, but it's the wrong thing to do. And it's just repurposing content from office-based channels and sort of throwing it. It's exactly what you just said, you know, not taking content and throwing it at them in a way that it might stick, but actually working around what are their needs, what's their flow, what they're interested in, you know, what gets them going, what gets them out of bed. But yeah.
And I'd also add to that as well, what's aggravating them or annoying? Are they being heard? And it might not be because they don't understand. It probably isn't because they don't get the company's strategy. It might be because the shift patterns, or the way I'm coming in, or the way I'm clocking out, or the way I take the holiday, or the way I'm doing things. That's the things I want to be consulted and inputted on, because that's what's affecting my day and my work. And by doing that, you might untap as well huge initiatives that could help you with retention, because simple changes to those everyday working lives that are built to their needs and what they're there to do can make a massive impact.
I might add too, you know, I love this conversation. And Ellie, just earlier you were mentioning about creating consumer grade experiences. And we talk about that all the time, really, in internal communications. But sometimes I think about how often are our actual experiences with corporate communications, you know, potentially viral or worthy of posting on social media or Instagram worthy? You know, what kind of channels are world-class brands using? Are they relying heavily on TLDR emails and PDF newsletters and convoluted intranet experiences? You know, yesterday we were talking about how Nike promotes their brand. And it's kind of funny, when you look at a Nike ad, what are they focusing on? Is it the shoe? Is it the quality of the rubber in the shoe, or that little plastic thing on the end of the shoelace? Do they focus on the Nike customer doing the customer job? Like the job of the customer is literally to go in the store, find the style that they like, get the size that they need, go to the cash register and buy the shoe. That's their job, but they're not focusing on the job of the customer. What they're doing is focusing on the human behind the customer and really inspiring them to think about the art of the possible. What does Nike do in terms of putting the context of a more interesting life for you, as you know, in terms of what your physical potential is? And I often think about that with employees. As employees, a lot of times we will feature stock images of, you know, people just being employees, like that ubiquitous image of the excited, happy tech support rep on a call, or people in a boardroom high-fiving each other. But we forget that employees are not just analysts and managers and baristas, but they're also their moms, they're pickleball all-stars, they're bass players in garage bands.
You telling us that you're a bass player in a garage band, Chris?
I'm none of those things.
One of your other secret missions. And I think on this as well, hopefully this is a natural segue. And we just had a quick question come in. Sorry, I didn't confirm at the start. All of this is recorded, so it will be available on demand, as well as slides, etc. So don't worry about any of that in terms of taking notes. You'll be able to watch this back. But back onto this theme in terms of, you know, the connectivity with people that aren't necessarily your immediate audience and easily reachable. Like, what role does technology and employee apps play? Because, you know, there are a hell of a lot of systems out there. There are a hell of a lot of apps, and there's almost, you know, you're spoiled for choice. So what role do you see these playing? Ellie, you spoke a lot about this is something you're actively working on at the moment. I would love to know, you know, what's your approach and how are you making sure you've got the right technology?
Yeah, so I think, you know, mobile first or get ignored, I think is I think that springs to mind. So, you know, making sure that our content is quick to consume, it's on demand, you know, video messages, bite-sized or social style posts, and then kind of, but it's more than that. You have to get, you know, have opportunities for people to get involved, making it fun. You know, Domino's, we did loads of stuff around, you know, our campaigns, our products, giveaways, merch. It's a brand that, you know, we hope people get excited about, but we certainly do, and we absolutely, you know, sort of lift that and push that and use it as a reason for people to get involved. I think we said before, you know, it's not just about updates and pushing out updates and letting people know what's happening, but it's creating opportunities for them to get involved. You know, culture, I think, lives in shared moments. You know, it's not just messages. So yes, comms, but it has to be more than that. And yes, mobile, on the go, quick. You know, we've got a podcast coming this year internally. So just really sort of taking things off the page and using our people to tell those stories as well.
Yeah. The rest of our lives evolves around our mobile. So, you know, our work life, it makes it easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
I think
And
there is a bit of a disconnect, isn't there? Like if you think about how communication mediums have changed and how we consume information in our daily lives. Like I will admit, about 45 minutes ago, I was scrolling through TikTok. I found this account of like these dancing chickens. I can't get enough of it. But anyway, I have that on demand, and it's like 3-second videos. I want to get in touch with my mum. I can video phone her like that, same device. I can send her a message, same device. I can send her a gift. She can send me a picture back. It's easy. And as a human person, I expect to be able to communicate as easily when I'm in work. But then we go into so many of these workplaces and there's still these clunky old SharePoint sites. Everything is long emails rambling on and on and on. The divide between the standards, I feel, is getting bigger. And I get quite annoyed actually when I see organizations, they understand the communication mediums because how they communicate with their customers has kept pace. And their customers get wonderful, tailored, beautiful communications that are very thoughtful from the marketing team. And then us internal communicators, like who cares about the employees? They just work here. Like it's terrible. It's terrible.
But also, you know, these platforms are kind of steering us in the direction of it's got the kind of content that we can create. It doesn't feel like that long ago, you know, working in businesses where, you know, you'd say to a leadership team, you need to do a video, and they're like, you know, the sweat starts forming. They're thinking it's a half day out of their calendar. It's a tripod. It's an auto cue. It's all of that going on. And actually, it's not these days. You know, it's about creating, you know, regular visibility and content that it's human. It's not rehearsed. It's not an auto cue, but it's authentic and it's real. And I think these sort of mobile platforms and that kind of fast pace of comms really opens up massive creativity, you know, but also allowing stuff to just feel real and genuine and authentic. So it's a big one of us. And yeah, at Domino's, we're moving in that direction with our leadership team. And as we know, they're up for all sorts of fun. So yeah, it's great.
You're in a very privileged position then. I think a lot of leaders not necessarily would dive into that sort of thing, but it sounds a lot of fun at Domino's, Ellie. Like you said, best job in the world. Chris, how about you? Your sort of stance on employee apps and technology, especially with the aim of like really trying to connect people?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing with apps, I think a lot of employers are looking for that holy grail, that one unified magic app that does all things for all people. It's delicious. It's smooth. It works well. But the reality is all of us have to think about building a tech stack that talks really well with each other and then can connect with each other seamlessly and provide for a really strong experience. And I like what all the other panelists that we're talking about here, which is in terms of the role that they also play in terms of inspiring dialogue and featuring the voice of employees. Because when you think about what are the things that most resonate with people to connect with hearts and not just minds, it's people just love hearing from other people with shared experiences and similar perspectives. And so I think, as we think about building our app ecosystem and thinking about not just the UX, the DX, the EX, but also thinking about the HX, the human experience. And, people love to talk. They love to share stories. And how are we providing fertile ground for people to be inspired and want to share different things that they're interacting with, and not just being looked at in terms of employees as just productivity machines and only focusing on what we need to tell them to do their job more effectively and how they can build careers. And I think the app ecosystem should be reflective of the human experience as well.
Absolutely. Jen, can I come to you last?
And sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm just looking at. If I squint at you, I do apologise.
No, you're there.
Technology. This is mobile in real life right now. I think my view, technology is a wonderful thing. We need to embrace it. We can enable it. It's there to do all those things. To say there's one size fits all in what we say and how we present it to meet everyone's personal preference, that's really challenging. I think it comes down to how we design it. Yeah, I agree very much with what Chris was saying as well. But it's also, how do we feed it? What is our language? What is our tone? What is the way we're enabling it and representing it? How do we let it live? How do we let it share? But I think that Ellie's point as well is, how does it become a place of interactivity is really important. We know from the work that we've done at IOIC that fundamentally, if you want an employee to become an advocate or to become someone that feels retained or involved, being able to be heard and feedback and hear feedback from that is really important. So it's about, yes, that really smart design, but how we design the human connections and the way we terminology and we phrase around that, and that language in that form that meets different preferences. We do need more consumer grade, but I'm getting a bit old, and I actually like my work communication different from my personal communication, because I need to psychologically separate them. So I think it's really important to make sure we consider all of those things as well.
And that goes back to your original point, doesn't it, of just like really knowing everyone and listening and what do they want, rather than assuming, well, you know, they're Gen Z, so they want X, or they're millennials, so they want etc. No, totally. And I would love to get into some of the questions, but we're not going to have time. But there are a lot of questions around user-generated content, employing, empowering your teams to be great content creators, not to be that person that plugs another session. But we have got another session all about that, which I'll tell you about at the end. Shameless plug, guys. Sorry. But how could we have a session on, the future of internal comms? There have been a little few whispers of it already, without talking about AI. And I'm going to ask everyone to try and keep it relatively short and sweet, because we're only going to be able to scratch the surface. So rather than just spend 10 minutes on it, I want to hear from our panelists specifically about this, but have a little poll as well. So cue the poll for the team behind the scenes. Thank you very much. And obviously AI, it has completely landed on us, and whether we're embracing it, whether we're worried about it, whether we're treating it more cautionary, as Jen, as you mentioned, how is it transforming how we communicate? How are IC leaders like diving in and using this? And like, how should teams be using it to be more efficient? I understand that was about 3 questions in one, but
I'm trying to really keep to your brief as well. I think that AI is here. We need to embrace it. We need to work with it. Technology is there to enable and advance what we're doing, not replicate what we're doing. Human connection and understanding is critical, particularly right here, right now. Where we're at, I think we're still behind. I think this year we've become even more fearful. I think corporations are even more fearful of its adoption. We've already seen the impact of the Trump administration, the tech billionaires, how that's come out in the Edelman Trust Barometer. So we need to proceed with caution and with consideration and with dialogue at the heart of it. Embrace it. Yes, it can help with content creation. It can do data things, work with it, but be mindful of why do you want to use it, for what outcome, to do what benefit, and find the right way to make it part of your world. It's happening. I just don't think we have fully experimented safely as enough as we have, but we need to move forward with ethical and human oversight.
Yeah. Joanna, how about your take?
I feel like AI is a funny one for internal communicators, because at heart, we are strategists, we're business partners. We are also quite a creative bunch. And I have noticed quite a lot of resistance, emotional resistance among communicators to the thought of using AI. Going back, I think there must be a year ago, I did an experiment where I used an AI tool to create some headshots for myself, mostly because I really hate having my picture taken. It's just so cringe.
Yeah, it's not a good experience, isn't it?
Terrible. But I found an AI tool that could do headshots for me based on 20 selfies that I fed in. And I shared the results on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, look, I did this AI thing. Actually, my LinkedIn photo is now still an AI shot. It's not actually.
Oh,
wow. But what I was shocked about is some people were like, this is brilliant. Give me the link. I want to do it too. Most people were like, this is quite interesting. But there was some people who were downright angry at me. There was a very strong emotional resistance to, wow, this is really inauthentic and you are lying to your audience, and I can't believe you're using AI and you're going to put all the photographers in the world out of work. So I just think if we are mindful of history, we will understand that disruptive technology is always going to meet emotional resistance. Like when the bicycle was invented, people said, oh, don't be riding a bike, you'll get bicycle face. That was a medical condition. When the telephone was invented, you'd be getting telephone ear, also medical condition. There was huge resistance to the television when it was invented, to the internet when it was invented. This is another of those in the string of history.
Human reaction.
So just to be aware of that, be a little bit open-minded. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but try not to resist it, because resistance is futile. Will I say that? And I'm going to get my Borg reference. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
I'm also going to go and check out the picture and study that, Joanna, because I thought it was a genuine photo. Chris, I feel when we spoke about this offline, you had just the most wonderful analogy for your take on this, and IC leaders really using this as well.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Georgie. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think the starting point, and I really, what Jen was saying really resonates with me in terms of, I do think AI is an incredible tool, but I think every organization really has to put meaningful resources towards articulating policy and a framework for good governance. But yeah, Georgie, I think I was thinking about AI. It's a lot like all of us now have inherited an intern with no experience, but unlimited capacity and potential. And the whole thing with interns is they are amazing and they have great attitudes, but they need effective prompting, because it is this whole idea of garbage in, garbage out. And there's a great framework out there. If you just look it up on Google, it's called the Rappel framework, the RAPPEL. I think it's from an organization called Trust Insights, and it gives a really good way of framing your prompts so that your prompts are not too short and you have to go through many iterations to get what you want. So it's a really well thought out process. And I really think it's important for us to remember that I can't remember if it was Joanna or Jen saying that we are behind. We're definitely behind. And actually, China has just unveiled DeepSeek, which looks like it will be a clear game changer in terms of us understanding just how quickly AI is accelerating, and with less and less resources to really create meaningful AI interactions. And so I think it is a game changer. It is an opportunity for us, not only in terms of productivity, but to hyper-personalize interactions with employees, tailoring content to the end user, developing more meaningful and engaging content. So there's lots of great application and use cases for AI, but it requires a strategy. It requires good governance, but once you get it, it is an unbelievable way to very quickly elevate and evolve the employee experience.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying thank you, Chris. I love the intern analogy. Ellie, dive in.
Yeah,
go
no,
for it.
I was just, I was loudly agreeing, I think, on that. And I think it is, it's moving so fast. And the key is all about experimenting, gathering feedback, and adapting as you go. I love it. I think it's great for sort of automating those repetitive tasks, or summarizing content. If you're working with a subject matter expert, it's really great for kind of helping digest big chunky bits of text. But also, I don't know, I have a challenge. Resources is a real challenge, isn't it, within businesses? And so you only go so far, and we stretch, and we partner, and we do all that we can. But I think with AI, if we can use that to our advantage on automating some of the kind of the lower hanging fruit, those repetitive tasks, and getting that content out quicker, then it frees you up to focus on that's the higher value work. And I definitely see we're really dipping our toes in. I don't think we've barely scratched the surface with the Domino's, but there's definitely a hunger for it and an excitement about it rather than a fear of it, which is great.
Yeah,
I'd love to learn more about using it to my advantage to make me go further, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a big opportunity ahead of us, and I think it's how we choose to dive into that. And just to share those poll results as well, Joanna, I know we were chatting previously, you were surprised about some another sort of poll you'd run asking for people's appetite and had they been using it. But just to share everyone, we had 88% of people were saying that they had used ChatGPT. I know that was just one example, but we've got high adopters on this call today. Very exciting. We have had quite a few questions. I just want to dive into the next topic, but we will have some time for questions as well. Don't panic, everyone, if you're sitting there without your question answered. I feel we've banded the term around a lot. I've written it down and had a little tally chart, is culture a lot. And, you know, that sits as an umbrella across internal comms, absolutely. But what does the role of internal comms play in shaping culture? And Jana, I'm really keen to come to you on this one, because I feel like you've probably got a plethora of ideas, frameworks, pillars. Like, what's your take on using or culture being more of a strategic initiative for internal comms leaders?
I think we need to be careful here, because there's this never-ending scope creep for internal communicators. We're communicating and then suddenly you're responsible for employee engagement. Oh, and you're also responsible for creating and maintaining the entire culture of the entire organization. So I want to tell you, like, you're absolutely not. Think about what culture is. Culture is the way that things are done here. And the way that things are done here is the way that leaders do things. So if you want to look at the culture of an organization, go, what is our culture? Look at what your leaders do, not what they say. If they talk about respect as being a core value and they're always late to a meeting and everyone has to wait for them, that core value is not being lived and it's nonsense. So watch what your leaders do, because there's good research that shows people who are lower down in an organization will scrutinize the behaviors and actions of leaders and then mimic them, because it's sending a loud signal of, this is what's acceptable here. It's okay to be late all the time. Nobody cares. So if the culture is set by the leaders, which it is, and the culture is terrible, like, we can't fix that. That's not our job to fix that. If there's a great culture, then communication can amplify that, and we can play a great role, and we can get people really clear on what the values are and what the expectations are. But please don't take on culture as your responsibility, because it's just not.
Heard it here first. Thank you, Joanna. I also love just how direct you are in how you communicate. I think it's just so clear. And I can imagine coming to you in a business and asking you, like, excuse me, no, listen up, which I think is important too. But thank you. And it's so true. Actions speak louder than words. Jen, can I come to you next? What's your take on culture, this being a bigger strategic initiative, and the role that internal communicators are playing?
I totally take on board what Joanna says. We can't create it. It's not. It's a doing behaviour that happens outside of our control. But we are seeing the increasing creation of culture roles. There's a lot of debate going on about HR as its own transformation and what it should be doing against policy, or how it creates the right environment and behaviorally around that. I'm not saying that I agree. I don't think that we can do that. But what I do see, if we are going to have we need a human-centric, tech-enabled future, if you can think about it like that. But I do also think there is an opportunity for internal communication to come in and help speak truth to power and speak up and play a bridge. What do I mean by that? So Joanna's quite right. What a leader says or does, and if it gains the values, well, we need to be unearthing that and playing that back. Right. That might be easier said than done. But our job is about how can we create programs, initiatives, campaigns that support the culture that we're trying to get towards, that support what's happening in terms of the mindset shift, and how can we use the intelligence and the bridge role that we play between a leader and employee to play back why it isn't working. If the organization wants a new culture or a mindset shift to achieve its goals, I think there is an intelligence and powerful or speaking truth or feedback loop we can play in that mix. And I think it's one that is really struggling to find its place in organizations from a design point of view.
Yeah. And just to read out some of the comments before Chris Nelly, I'd love you to dive in as well, is a human-centric, tech-enabled culture. Love that. Other people saying, question it, their, you know, internal mantra is, what would Joanna Parsons do? And other people saying, thank goodness, because I thought my job title was getting longer and longer. I'm not in head of internal comms, engagement, experience, culture. So thank you both for your take. But Chris, I would love to go over to you in terms of, you know, this piece around culture.
Yeah, and honestly, I think just earlier, Joanna, everything that you said is exactly how I think about the role that leaders play. Because I often, when you think about the role that people managers play in culture and in creating the foundation for a strong culture, often people managers are the weakest link in, you know, any kind of role that or influence that we play in internal communications in influencing culture and the overall employee experience. And it makes sense when you really think about how people managers get promoted into those roles. It's often the most knowledgeable and the most experienced person on the team, and that makes a lot of sense. But that same person might not be the one person on the team that is the most vocal or has the most ideas, or you know, is the person that is the go-to for the rest of the team. And so when you promote some of these people into those roles, you have a double whammy, that person, the experienced and knowledgeable ones, no longer doing the thing that they're awesome at, but now on top of that, they're in a new role which requires a completely different skill set. And so thinking about people managers as important stewards for communications, it often will be a potential gap in our best laid communication plans. We have no real influence on who gets promoted, who are the people managers, the role that they might play in potentially toxic culture. And so I think it's really important for us in internal communications to think about how can we tool up all communications to all people managers so that we are giving them opportunities for more structured conversations that can lead to more interesting and engaging interactions. Otherwise, all the great work that we do can sometimes feel like lipstick on a pig if it's being served into a toxic team environment.
Yeah, I'm nodding away. I completely agree. You know, firstly, that culture isn't just owned by us or by one team. It's a massive collective effort. It's internal comms, it's HR, it's leadership. Everybody has to be aligned so that values and initiatives aren't just top down, but part of, you know, everyday conversations. You know, and it's not just those big announcements that we would send out. It's shaped in those micro moments of every day. You know, how meetings start, how feedback's given, how wins are celebrated. You know, and I think we do have, you know, Domino's especially, but we've got this great opportunity, whether it's, you know, it's the shout outs that we give and the recognition, it's, you know, those sort of casual moments on our internal channels, and how we communicate successes that are a real enabler. You know, but working with people on feedback and how that's working, how that's landing, making that loop. You know, it's not just we're pushing stuff out to people and hoping that it sticks or that it feels good. Asking them how does it feel? How did that go down? You know, who was responsible? You know, who played a role in that? That we need to make sure they get that recognition. But I would also say that when it comes to sort of culture stuff, you know, if messaging is dry or repetitive, then people will tune out. So the format of sort of culture comms is just as important as the message itself. You know, we can't be claiming about something that, you know, I can't think of an example off the cuff, but, you know, someone who's talking about, you know, respect is really important when you're late to a meeting. You know, it's about making sure that our comms channels and how we're communicating, whether it's an in-person meeting, if it's something important, you know, how we're delivering that. And just making sure that we're conscious of it all. But, and I guess we are the glue, I think, that maybe sometimes holds all of these pieces together. We don't have reviews. You've said, Chris, you know, on those people managers and who in the business are our key audience, but we do have the power to work with them and communicate with them and use them, especially. And people managers is a great example, often overlooked, but kind of, you know, really ramping up their role in shaping how messages land, how they're feeling with their teams, feeding that back up as well as importantly as passing it onwards, you know, bringing it back as well.
And I think, I feel like a bit of a theme here is really obviously like behavioural and interaction and things being two-way. It doesn't work if it's a one-directional you know, initiative, and that interaction is really important. Those actions are really, really important and play a crucial role. Thank you, everyone. I'm conscious of time. We're probably going to run over by a few minutes, but this is my most exciting topic we're now going to dive into and cue a bit of a poll. but we're now going to dive into the element of future proofing, and what does that actually look like. Have we got a poll? Future proofing. I want to know what trend in 2025 you are all most excited about. But for our panel, and Joanna, I feel like you'll have a lot of flavor on this, so please, over to you to take us off. But what are the biggest challenges going into 2025, and what is going to be really, really critical for internal comms gurus and leaders to be mindful of, whether that's trends, tools, initiatives?
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I think going back to that picture I drew at the start, I think complexity is our biggest enemy. I think as human beings, we tend to overcomplicate things. It can be inadvertent and it can be really well-intentioned. But when we keep adding on more and more and more and more, our employees take the brunt of that, and there's more channels to navigate. And if they're just trying to do their job, but they have to go to 20 different places to get their information, and they have to go to 20 different apps just to complete something, like that's a total head wreck from their perspective. So I think that increasing complexity, because I'm always hearing from clients, I think we need another channel. I think, oh, I just got another channel. And I'm like, great, how many did you get rid of? And I get this blank face of what? So it's not even that less is more. It's just less. Just do less and do it better. If we could get our minds around that, I'd be delighted.
I love it. My mother used to tell me that when I first started wearing makeup. Less is more, less is more. Applies to many things. Jen, how about you? And, you know, especially from the IOIC's perspective, what are you looking into for 2025? And I know you've been speaking about this a lot on other events as well, so I'm sure it's, you know,
it's really difficult to distill so succinctly, and that's also a personal challenge for me, to be succinct. But I think we have to be really tuned in to what's going on around us and that backdrop, and just understanding mood. Trust is essential. It is a commodity that we need to treat with care and with nurture before we think about things and before we make decisions for unintended consequences. I think the things I would think about for you as the future is tune into your stakeholders, tune into the business needs, the priorities, but also your people. Be that bridge, and think about how you are going to future-proof your own skill sets when things will change beyond being just that one of delivery of messaging. It's about how are we getting into the center of that organization. So yes, it is about simplicity. It is about honesty, but it is about be really a good guardian of trust.
That's a lovely term. I feel like you've got all the good terms today, Jen. Thank you. Chris, how about you? And I know you're in San Francisco at events diving into a lot of this as well, so you're probably sick of talking about this, but what's your take as well in terms of, let's dive into the year, and what is that going to be looking like?
Yeah, no, definitely, Georgia. And I think one of the biggest trends for all of us, every single person on this call, has to think about, in a word, money, resources, investment. I think what tends to happen is, first of all, employees too often are looked at as a cost center and not as much as an investment. And I think that bleeds into the internal communications function. A lot of us, I can't tell you how many times I've heard the term, we're a small but mighty team. And I think when you're time poor, which I think is almost a universal thing that we all share in common, when you're time poor, it really limits our ability to think proactively and strategically, and we end up being a lot more reactive in our approach. I think lack of investment in resources means that we're trying to look at low-cost ways to reach our employee base. And I just think about things like, I'm an Apple user, and years ago, Apple made a courageous bet to spend multiple times more on packaging than any of their competitors in that space. And I would love to have been sitting in on what is the business case for doing that? How did they business case that? How did the agency approach Apple about that, where they're spending money on something that has nothing to do with the tech itself, but it became an experience that was unboxing videos were on YouTube. People keep the boxes on their shelves. And what would it look like for us to put that kind of investment into memorable interactions that go beyond a lot of our, sort of so-called best practice tools for talking to employees. This is, to me, what it means to be consumer grade.
I would love to know, Chris, do you keep all of your Apple boxes? I absolutely don't. I wonder who does. But it's so true. And I think that term, they're memorable interactions. And I know there's been a lot of questions today, which we're not going to dive into, around the metrics and measuring this side of things. So I think a lot of these things are really difficult to actually put some hard and soft metrics behind. We felt we could have an entire session on measurement and metrics. So maybe we'll get the gang back together again to talk about that. But I'm sorry, we're not touching on that today. And Ellie, lastly to you, I know you have the best job in the world, and hot and fresh is your theme for 2025. But do you see yourself facing particular challenges or seeing particular trends that are going to be coming up throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the future of internal comms, and I think where I land on it is it's that idea of, it's not just about what we say, but it's about how we make people feel, which actually sounds a bit woolly, but it's because it encompasses so much that we talked about already. Reaching deskless, and hard to reach teams. If we're not reaching them, how do they feel? They feel ignored or unimportant, or so on and so on. It's about creating content that appeals to a certain demographic but might exclude or other people. It could be that we're making people feel overwhelmed with content. Are we going too far the other way? Is it too much too often? Are they overwhelmed? Are we, as you talked about, Joanna, are we bringing in too many channels that people don't know where to look? And I think that's why we have just constantly got to be thinking around that experience and making people's lives easier. People, that they know where to go to do their jobs better, and so on and so on. And I think that's a weighty responsibility, but I think that's one that sticks with me quite a lot.
Joanna, any final thoughts on this? I feel you've got just so many ideas and things that you're going to be diving into in 2025. Have you seen any particular themes in trends, or people asking about particular trends for the year?
There's something that people never ask me about, and then I always ask them about, which is, what is the purpose of internal communication in your organization? What are you there to do? Because the type of people that come to me, usually really burnt out, really exhausted. They are doing everything for everybody, and they're doing a great job, but that creates more work. And so I run a lot of workshops with clients where we're like, what the hell are you doing? What's it all for? How much of this work is important? Show me your comm strategy and draw a line. Show me all this stuff you've done the last 2 weeks. Show me the links. And they're like, oh crap. So I do a lot of work in figuring out what is important, what matters, and getting really clear and getting aligned with your leaders on what's internal comms doing. Why is your CEO paying you? What is the investment for? If you can get really clear on that, get your leaders to understand that, that's the key to unlocking so much great stuff. In saying that, it's hard and it takes good reflexive work. But if you can think about that in 2025, you're going to be ahead of 95% of your other people in the industry.
That element of impact, isn't it? And you can so easily get caught up in every other million things you've got to do that day. Amazing. Joanna, thank you. I'm going to dive into some questions. We've had so many. I am conscious of time. We are going to keep going for another couple of minutes so that we can get through some questions, and then we'll be wrapping up. And thank you for those who've set questions. If you'd like to ask one, please do put it in the Q&A box. And if we can't get to it today, we're going to be writing up the questions anyway. So I'm going to dive straight in. And I think this is a really interesting question. We have maybe played on this a little bit. Can or should internal communications be decoupled from employee engagement and employee experience? Is there a difference, and should there be? And Chris, I think I'm going to go to you for that question.
So I think it's important to think about what our role is and how we can connect into other parts of the employee experience. So internal communications is not employee experience, but is a very important part of that, and it's an important marriage. And so I've always thought that we're active participants in it, and we're also complicit in what kind of experience results. But I love the discourse around culture. That is everyone's responsibility. And it's not just the responsibility of internal communications. But again, if we go back to this precept of getting a seat at the table, which I always think is a tired way to talk about this, but we have to be keenly aware and fully an active participant in the discussions about the overarching employee experience.
Right. And that was a question from David. So David, thank you for sending in your question, and Chris for your take on that. Ellie, I think this is a great question for you that we've got here is, we want to ask people what they want, but we also don't want to overload them with surveys. How do we get feedback?
Oh, it's a good question. Well, I don't really see a problem with asking them. We don't ask people constantly, but I think, don't just rely on your annual engagement survey once a year, because, engagement is all year round. But I think, the trick is to act on when you're asking people. If you're collecting data, you have to act on it. Otherwise, people just see it as an exercise that doesn't really go anywhere. And I think that's just the missing link. So if you're asking for feedback, you're absolutely committed to doing 1, 2, 3 things with it and showing that back to them. And then people, I think, will give you their time. People will give you their feedback. And you're not necessarily asking for it from everybody all the time, but you could look at different subgroups. Just know your people, know where to look. And I think Domino's runs on data, so if we don't ask it, then I think we're not doing the right things. But I would just say, just act on that feedback, use the data to your advantage.
It's so true. We've all been there, haven't we? We've been asked surveys and feeling that we were honest, and then nothing happened off the back of it. So that action point, I think, is really true. Jen, I think I've got a great question here for you. Is, can I understand a bit more about what success metrics could look like for internal comms that connect a more concrete link between comms and maybe reaching business goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of places I think you can start from, and it really will be specific to your organization. But if you want some reputation, risk management, right? Every board, I'm going to go one really specific one to start with. Every board has a risk register, has a risk framework. Now, risks need to be thought about in what we say, how we say it, where it comes across, what actions we take. So first and foremost, if you are the most tuned in function to the employees and the leadership in that bridge, can help advise the management and mitigation of risk that can have consequential impact to productivity, share price, reputation is one example. Yeah. One could be that the organization is spending, I don't know, billions of dollars on huge transformation projects that require behavior change. And that fails for financial reason, because we all know that communication often is where it goes wrong. That is a huge investment an organization wants to be seen taken care of really, really carefully. You want to be thinking about, for example, productivity, right? So one of our core roles is to communicate strategy. Where is the organization going? Where is it heading? Is it clear? Do I understand my role from the biggest to the smallest? Now, if the strategy is misunderstood, or the productivity, or no one's driving the innovation or the things that they want, that is an area you can show impact on. And it might be that there are cultural change in mindsets. What's our role in that? What is the retention issue? Is there an employer brand issue? So there are many, many things that big metrics on a board: risk, retention, reputation, productivity, innovation, that you can align. The problem internal comms often has is we don't feel like we can own something 100%, so we run from it. Don't worry about what's your 25%, what's your 10% of that mix, and find a way into that. That's something I would start with.
Jen, thank you. And that was a question from who was that question from? Oh, somebody anonymously, but thank you for your question for Jen. And I think that's a great cocktail of metrics to get started with. And I'll just have one more question. And Joanna, I'm going to come to you because I know you've obviously been in lots of different roles in internal comms, and I feel you will really empathize with Ellie, who's asking this question, saying internal comms can sometimes feel like just pushing out a lot of emails that say the same thing, but in a different font each time. What advice do you have to break through this while keeping core messaging?
Yeah, okay. This is very similar to what I was just talking about. If you feel like you're just pushing things out and you're taking orders from everybody, and you're probably also going to feel like everyone is telling me how to do my job. I feel totally undervalued, underappreciated. I'm going to leave and get another job. Then the next job, the same thing happens again. I think there's a bit about, for you as an individual, to not be afraid to own your expertise. Like, there is a very simple switch I made many years ago in my career. I was getting really tired of, like, you'd write something amazing and then you'd send it to the subject matter expert and go, will you just approve this or just review? Let me know if you want any changes, that kind of thing. And they'd send back some awful shite. Am I allowed to say shite on your webinar? But they totally change it. They'd add in all the jargon. Nobody would understand it. And I just made this little switch, and I would say, instead of, do you want to make any changes? I'd say, will you just fact check this for me? Are the facts correct in this? And then if they'd send it back with all the commas changed, no, I would completely disregard that, because the communications is my wheelhouse. I know that better than you as the head of IT. I own that. Thank you very much. And maybe we are a lovely bunch in internal communications. Maybe we're too nice. So maybe this is the year where we actually step into our roles a little bit more. We own what we do. And like, if I went into finance and told them how to do their spreadsheets, they would have no problem telling me to get out. Why do we not do that too? Okay, I could go on my soapbox there, but maybe that's where we start.
Thank you, Joanna.
Sorry, one of my big things is that, it's really easy to fall into your patterns of the channels that are right in front of you because you're busy and because it's easy and because they might read it or whatever. But actually, choose your weapon. You've got so much in your in your kit about how to get people together. Lean on all that data that you're going to collect through asking them what they want, how do they want to hear it, and then it will open up. You've got different channels to lean on rather than sending out all these emails in different fonts.
So true. And I think, just like to the community point and people that work in internal comms, I've had such, it's been such a great vibe today. So many people sharing stories and sympathizing with each other, sharing LinkedIn profiles, horror stories. So it's true. There is a really great community of support out there, even if you're, a solo internal comms leader as well. I know, Ellie, you're the one and truly. So I think, there is a great community, and on that, I'm conscious of time, so we're going to stop the questions there. And the last bit of forced fun today, I would like to introduce that we're building a internal comms survival playlist for the year. So this will be a playlist that we will share. There is a link there. I would love anybody to add a song. And again, this is a fabulous community. Let's all work together to just build a bit of a hype playlist for the year. So I'd like our panelists to tell me what song that they'll be putting on the playlist. Joanna, what is your song?
I'm going to add two. I'm going to go with Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi, because that's often what it feels like. We'll also go with the song I heard on the radio earlier, and I'm old, Here I Go Again on My Own by Whitesnake.
Oh, great one. Ellie is I hear you.
Oh my God, yeah.
So good. Ellie, what's your song for the playlist?
Oh God, I mean, I'm gonna love this playlist. I think I will be the top listener of it. So bring it on. But oh my God, what sprung to my mind when you were talking about it was that Miley Cyrus, The Climb. There's always something else. You get over the milestone. We had a massive event last week. It's done, and you think, oh, I can't wait to breathe. Nope.
Because there's always going to be another mountain.
There's so many more mountains. Yeah, we're going to make them move, so it's all good.
Amazing. And Chris, what's your song for the playlist?
I think my song is We Are Family by Sister Sledge.
Sister Sledge.
I think it really speaks to us as an internal communications community. We are family. I got all my sisters with me, and that's really what it feels like with internal communications, that we have a distinct shared experience.
I love that. Thank you. And Jen, what's your song for the playlist?
I am terrible with music, but I will say this. One of my thoughts is a little bit of Bob Marley. Everything's going to be okay. Don't panic.
Oh, love. Thank you.
Okay.
So true. So true. I feel we've got a real mix there of survival, panic, calm, expedition. And we've put the link there. So I would love everybody here, please add a track to the playlist. This is going to be a community playlist. We're going to promote on our events and speak to panelists about, so that we just have this sort of Bible of music, because let's be honest, music can, make us feel better. There's been some great suggestions as well in the chat. We've got Hear Me, Imagine Dragons, Leave, Get Out by Jojo. Are you okay over there? Say What You Need to Say, John Mayer. I Love My Life by Robbie Williams. Some absolute bangers. I feel please do contribute to the playlist. It'd be great. Before I end, I want one word from our panelists to summarize internal comms for 2025. Can you do it in one word? Or maybe, Joanna, it's your one line. But could I have your one word, Joanna?
Simplicity.
Thank you. Jen?
Oh gosh, one word. Human.
Human. Chris?
I was going to say a human as well as the next two, but I would also say hope.
Hope. Lovely. And Ellie?
I was going to go human actually, but I'm going to go for vibrant.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I've got one final poll. Obviously, it wouldn't be a webinar without a final poll of the day. And I also just wanted to tease up, just a little nod to my production team over here, that we have got a webinar coming up, which is, and there's been quite a lot of questions on this, it's coming up in February, and it's how to make internal comms go viral with Gen Z. So head to that URL if you want to join us. But that's all from me. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Joanna, Ellie, Chris and Jen from your mobile. It's been so fun. I really hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. This is recorded and on demand, so no problem. And we'll hopefully see you soon at another Blink event. And take care.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.